How's it going, everybody? It's me, the pig. I'm back. So, today we're going to be going over the leaks that I was promised. I thought we were going to get some more information. I guess we didn't. I was up when the leaks dropped. They dropped the splash art for Silverwolf 0999. I don't know. I'm just going to call her probably SW999 should be fine. I think that should be, that's heavy enough what you want to say. It's too many syllables, but Silverwolf SP is fine. New Silverwolf, Thanos Silverwolf, whatever you want to call it. She's neat. I think the design's cool. Obviously she doesn't look very different. There are different design elements, but she looks mostly the same. I think it's because she's going to transform into that mecha form that we saw. So I'm not putting too much stock into this being the design you're going to see all the time. Castor's design is pretty boring, but when you add Pollux to it, it's pretty good. So we'll see how that goes. I'm assuming maybe her Aha instant is her transforming. But let's go ahead and look at what they did release. Just some light information here. No new male characters in Himiko team, but it's not guaranteed that there won't be any old male characters in there. 3 new male characters in one team. Which I don't know if this includes Ashvale or not, but that should be interesting. Maybe Adventurine's going to be a follow-up character, because we know there's an Adventurine SP coming out. Evanescia is a Master Love character. Her splash art contains Trailblazer elements, and her teammates are Yao Guang and EMC. So this kind of goes against what... Let me just make sure I'm not going crazy here. Yeah, okay, cool. So... I know they just put out that Yao Guang and EMC were on the Silverwolf team, which I do think is gonna be, how do I put this, it's gonna be interesting for sure, given that we thought these two were gonna be on the Silverwolf team. Now it says down here that she still makes the cut. Yao Guang still makes the cut. EMC maybe not. We don't know what EMC does, but I think there's a hint as to what she does in here. Which maybe next week we get the beta information. It could be any random day this week too. So I'll keep the lookout on, and I'll post a video as soon as they do get posted. But Silverwolf, SP Silverwolf, Sparzy, and Yao Guang are in one team. So Yao Guang is kind of this generalist elation support. I think she's just going to be good for everybody. But this excites me. The gap between low and high Eidolon investments is very large, so it's recommended mainly for whales. So that's telling me Silverwolf SP is going to probably have the best E6 in the game. Her E0 may not perform very well, though, which is going to be interesting. I don't know what the leakers consider high Eidolon investment. Because when I'm thinking of the Casters team, I'm thinking E2 Casters, E1 March 7th, E2 Cyrene, and E1 Hyacinth. That's sort of your entry-level Eidolon investment, I feel like, for that mono rem team for clearing the actual, the hard content in the game. So when they say high Eidolon investment, I don't know if it's equal to that. If it's okay, you need Silverwolf S2, or sorry, Silverwolf E2, Sparzy E1. But Yao Guang, I mean, her Eidolons are pretty good. I can pull her up right now. Actually, I'll leave that there. Her Eidolons are good. It is a little interesting. Oh, that's right here. If Aha's turn triggered by the ultimate, fixed amount of punchline taken into account increase to 40. When all targets deal elation damage, ignores 20% of the target's defense. So this is strong. I don't think this isn't too crazy. This might be kind of nuts, depending on how Silverwolf works. The elation numbers are kind of they're not making them very high, so I feel like any elation increase is going to be pretty good. This seems pretty solid. Her E4 seems pretty good. So maybe they're talking very high investment. I would consider if you need an E4 character for it to compete with the likes of Mono Remembrance, it's very high. I mean, obviously I feel oh, this is the wrong one, sorry. Obviously I feel Silverwolf should be E6 anyways. Being a main push, I'd expect her to at least be an E2 DPS character. And we already know Sparzy from, if you watch my last videos, I've considered her an E1 character, E1, S1. Obviously, S1 is just a given for everybody here, but, I consider Sparzy an S1 character. Or, yeah, obviously, E1 character, sorry. Just for her punchline generation to help out Silverwolf. Yao Guang being on the team is also just kind of funny, though. Because I'm not sure what, I mean, I guess Yao Guang is just there because duh, right? I mean, like, who else is going to be on the team for the third elation character? For Sparzy's passive, right? And I actually had a comment on my last video that brought up a good point too, because I was thinking when they were showing off that, you know, the best team for Silverwolf that I was going over in my last video, they mentioned Huohuo Dan Heng, but someone brought up a good point, like, hey, like, what if you don't have to run a sustain character, you know, sort of like a Finon deal, you know, where Finon, like, you probably should run Dan Heng, but 90% of the time I don't think you actually need to run a sustain character on his team, so just because he's like, you kind of want to buff him as much as possible and you can kill the enemy before it even matters. So Sparkle could be a good fourth element on here. It's interesting that they're not making this a mono elation team, at least yet. Not making EMC integral to this team, it seems. It still is, technically. You probably switch out Yao Guang for EMC, but it depends on what EMC does. So this is, I'm excited for this. We're going to see what this means, though. Because I'm comparing Silverwolf directly to the Mono Remembrance team. I feel like if she isn't at least a side grade to that team, it's a waste of an anniversary push. I don't know why they would make a character that isn't at least as good as Castris. And I've said this in multiple videos now. Like, they need to make her as good as Castris, at least in my opinion, right? Otherwise, I don't know why you'd summon for this character when... I still think it's going to be very difficult for them to make him as good as Castris because of the team that Castris has. Obviously, Silverwolf maybe won't be competing on a team like Castris is right away, but in a vacuum, as long as she's as good as Castris and has that, you know, that ability to be that good in the future, I think it's okay. Because, I mean, we're still seeing, let me actually check. I don't know if it's possible with this most recent one. Huh? Oh, there we go. It took a little while. Plight, Anomaly Arbitration, and we can go... score. Yeah, like we can still zero action value plight character or plight enemies with this team. And I know that obviously this is like ridiculous, you know, 41 cost team, but it can be done. You know, full E6 S5 Sparzy team, 43 cost. Okay, I'm sorry, what's not? Oh, it's an S3 Siren Cone. Okay. Is a 14 action value. That's pretty good. But the difference, I feel like at this level, between 14 and 0 is actually huge. I think that's gigantic. I think that it's very hard at this level to be getting 14 AV from anything on the field. So seeing this is important. This also means that they died. This little symbol here, I think, is the caster's resurrection icon. So at some point they died, obviously, because they're running a sustainless comp here. Anything else here? Anaxa did it in 25. Like, the difference between a 25 and a 14 is huge, in my opinion, right? And the difference between 14 and 0 is just the same. Like, in integrals of 14 AV is really big, because that's usually the action value it takes before one person on your team takes an action that's above 200 speed. Like Hyacinth, for instance, takes like 14 action value on her first instance. On her first action, and she usually goes first. There's some enemies that kind of get around that, but usually Hyacinth goes first and it takes about 14 AV. So seeing a Silverwolf team be able to perform this well, you know, 0 action value plight, obviously plight's going to be a little bit with the pom-pom plight boss, it's going to be a little bbit shilled for you know, I don't even know if pom-pom plight boss is going to be out in 4.2, to be honest. It might still, because it might be a 4.1 only thing, but I think we're going to see bosses shill punchline, shill elation, obviously. I do think it's a good thing, you know, to make these characters artificially better than they are, which is fine. But I mean, the Castris team is still AV0, so at 41 cost. So if you know, seeing a Silverwolf team perform this well would be awesome. I don't think it's going to happen right away. I think you're going to see a lot of this. 14 action value, 15 action value, you know, in between that 10 to 20 action value range for plight clears, which is fine. You know, if the team does get better, we know, I think Sparzy's going to be a lock for this team. I mean, absolutely. I don't think Sparzy's ever leaving. So the other two, if they get better, I think we'll have a chance to see some really fun stuff. And I'm not summoning for any elation characters. And that's not me just being like a, you know, I would if I wanted to. I'm just not that interested in the elation path. I do think it's good for the game to introduce more paths, so it's my unpopular Honkai Star Rail opinion. I think it just keeps the economy alive. You know, I don't have to keep splitting light cones between 100 different people. So let's go to the next one. Yeah, recommended mainly for whales. So again, like this part, I'm not really sure what they mean. I don't know what high Eidolon investment means, because for me, high Eidolon investment is like E4 at least. Mainly for whales, that tells me E4 at least, but, you know, who knows? Like, it could be E2, 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 and then, you know, if it's a full E2 team and it's performing as well as, like, the E2 casters team, which I think, there might be an E2 casters team clear on here. I wish there were more plight victories, because I know you can clear plight. I know you can clear plight with an E2 casters team. I'm just assuming people aren't submitting their runs. And once Honkai Star lets me turn off my Eidolons, dude, I'm ready, dude. I've been asking for that for a while now. But you can clear plight with an E2 mono rem team. It's just not submitted here, so I don't have any proof. And I can't do it myself, so you'll just have to take my word for it, I guess. Let's go. Silverwolf and Evanescence will both get after-sale service. Silverwolf and Sparzy will be in one team, while Evanescence and Yaoguang will be in another team. So this is where it get, like, again, this is like, I don't know what this means. Eventually, maybe that's what they mean. Like, Evanescence being on the Yaoguang team, or sorry, I guess, yeah, right, whatever. Yaoguang being on the Evanescence team eventually, you know, like for like maybe this is because I think what it's saying is, and what I think I brought up in the other video too, is like on release Silverwolf is going to be Silverwolf, Sparzy, Yaoguang, and then a sustain of your choice, either Dante or Huohuo Nova Flare. And this one's saying after sales services, so after all these other limited 5-stars come out that are like, you know, made for the characters Evanescence and Silverwolf a little bit more exclusively, the team is going to change. So it's still going to be Silverwolf and Sparzy and then 2 other people that aren't out yet, and then it's going to be Evanescence, Yaoguang, and 2 other people that aren't out yet. Whatever, I don't know, like, there's a Robin SP coming out, a Himiko SP coming out, so it's, I feel like that there might be a 3rd team that they're releasing in this patch, which would be kind of crazy. Really for 3.0, like, it felt like you had like the Finon team, which still I don't feel like the Finon team is where it should be. I feel like it's missing a really good 5-star replacement for one of the support characters. The Nova Flare for Sparkle has been pretty good for that team, but like you can still, I feel like like if you just make a 5-star Wukong or Yukon character, like you'd be there. You know, I feel like the Finon team is missing one more support character. So really they only gave us one team in 3.x, given it is like giga busted, but you know, it's fine. And then 2 relation teams are all female. Their strength is still unclear. EMC, this is interesting. I don't know what this means. EMC's mechanic roughly copies the previous team installation skill and provides a large number of punchlines. So ignore this last part, because this next part, and I'm just gonna boot this up. Roughly copies is wrong. This is not what it does. It actually, so Sparzy is the punchline generating machine. So this is why she's never gonna leave that Silverwolf team, in my opinion. This just tells me that's what that means. EMC does not have the ability to provide a large amount of punchlines. Among the recently released characters, nothing generates punchlines more efficiently than Sparzy, which is great. I mean, you know, so Sparzy's going to be on the team forever. Yaoguang seems like she's going to be on the team forever, so that's really good. That's a bonus for the 0.0 characters, you know, which, you know, whatever. So we'll see. Not too much has changed other than this little bit of information and then this information. This second sentence here, I'm putting a lot of stock into this, and I'm really interested to see what this means. The fact that the strength of the Elation teams are unclear and they're expecting a high investment cost is kind of strange to me. I don't know why they would word it like that. Again, I don't mind, you know, high investment cost characters, but the strength is unclear makes no sense. Like, it should just be, this team is going to be at least, you know, 1B, right? Like, it's going to be at least as good as casters. I feel like that should have been clear, but if it isn't, that gets me a little worried. But I know these leakers like to have their drama, so you know, maybe don't think about it too much. But that's kind of all the updates that we got. Obviously the splash art, I know I went over this a little bit, but it's kind of all the information that we got, really. Which, yeah, like, it's, you know, it's cool. I mean, they got new maps, I guess. We can go over that. It's lame. It's cool to see Silverwolf is going to be getting after-sales service. It's sort of like Casters. I mean, Casters is like the definition of an after-sales service character, man. Because she had all 3 of her best teammates were released after her. So, you know, it's pretty good, I guess. It's really good to see that. So, yeah. Thanks for watching.